Hello and welcome. This is Seeker Gaming. I've just rebranded. So in case you're wondering what happened to Mad Vapor Gaming, it's still here. Long story short, Facebook has been severely limiting my reach and wouldn't let me promote really because my name had the word vape in it and they're being assholes about it. So I rebranded to hopefully get some more reach. There will still be vape content on this channel, but now I am Seeker Gaming. And because just Seeker was already taken on Twitch, it's actually Seeker127. So if you see Seeker Gaming or Seeker127 Gaming or just Seeker127 on any of my content outlets, chances are it's me. And today, though, we're going to be talking about the Noisy Cricket from Wismec. Now, this is the second time I'm filming this, and the reason is on my broadcasting software, my hotkey to mute the microphone is the decimal point on the numpad. So as you can see, that's what happens when you hit that. At one point, I go in and show you something in Ohm's Law, and I'm hitting a lot of that decimal point, and it keeps muting and unmuting, so like half my video was muted. But it's okay, because the first time I tended to ramble too much, and I want to get more to the point on this. I decided I'm not going to treat this review as an explanation. The Noisy Cricket is a mechanical mod. You could say it's a box. I'm going to be calling it a box. It's a mechanical box. It has stacked batteries or 18650s in series, and it has a hybrid connection. Long story short, if you don't know what any of those mean, stop watching the video and don't buy this. It's not for you. This is for advanced users only. So that being said, I am going to take it apart and show you some stuff that some of the other videos out there haven't really shown me. And I think it's kind of important and just kind of my experiences over the last couple months. Generally, I try to do videos for things that aren't out yet or are newly released. This is a bit different just because I like this so much. This is pretty much all I've been using for the last couple months since I got it, and it's working out really well. I have a Velocity RDA clone on here. I know, don't give me any crap about the clone thing. If I could afford an original Velocity or wherever in stock, I would have one, but this is all I can afford right now, so that's what I'm using. So let's take it apart. Let me just show you what's going on in here that you may not see on the other videos. And then I'll talk about my experiences with it. Don't fall over, atomizer. All right, so up top, you have your hybrid connection. You have your switch. I use a penny to take it out. You just put the penny in the slot on both sides and unscrew. And then once I have enough room, I just use my fingers. The threading is not great. It could be because it's kind of getting dirty, but it's also aluminum, so it's just not going to feel buttery smooth. But this is a $35 mech mod. $35. You can't really complain about the threading too much when you get this kind of performance out of a mod like this. It is aluminum. The black version is also aluminum, so it's very, very light. Once you take those off, you basically have kind of this double barrel shotgun looking thing. Whoa, actually that looks kind of funny when it's in front of my face. It looks like I'm wearing goggles. So down there you have your connections, and I will take it apart for you. All you need is a Phillips head screwdriver. There's two little screws on the top and bottom that you just unscrew. Bear with me a moment while I do this. Shouldn't take too long. Just want to make sure I don't lose the screws. All right. Screws are out. Now this bottom piece just kind of comes off, and then you can see right through the mod right there. So you can tell the difference between the top and the bottom. The bottom has this little thing and the screws, obviously. And then this part, let me refocus so you can see. You have this thing, and when you put your batteries in, it just kind of seesaw back and forth to make sure you get a good connection. That part is what touches that part, and it is a little bit sticky, even though I don't think it needs to be. The more important thing is that it's insulated. And then this just kind of pulls off, right? And then you have a sticky thing on that side, and then you have a little thing right here for it to kind of teeter-totter on. And that's pretty much it. That's all there is to it. So when you want to put it back together, you just kind of do that. It doesn't have to be perfect because it's kind of going to get into shape anyway when you put it back on here, and then you just kind of put it in like that, and then you reapply the screws. So let me focus, and then we'll put the screws back in. That's really all that's going on the inside. So nothing too complicated, which is a good thing. The switch does come apart. I'll just talk about the switch while I'm putting this back together because I'm not going to take apart the switch. But it's a pretty standard. You got a switch on, or a button for you to press on one side. Got the contact on the other side and a spring in between it. The spring is fine. It's nothing special, but it works. I don't get any heat up or anything like that, although I don't know if I would notice because it's plastic. So you can kind of hear right now that since there's no batteries, now it's not doing it. It just did it. Now it's not doing it. It can rattle. Don't worry about it. So one battery goes in positive up, the other battery goes in positive down or negative up, and the positive up side is where your atomizer goes. So this is the top cap right here. There's no pin. It's a hybrid connection, and then it's insulated around the outside here, just in case your wrapper isn't all together. So I always take the hybrid top cap and screw it on first, and then take that whole thing and screw it right on, just like that. And then the switch goes on next. So real quick with the switch, let's focus. You can put an Allen key in there. It does not come with an Allen key to take this apart, but if you have one or you go and find one, you can take it apart. You basically just stick the Allen key in that hole and then use a coin to unscrew that side right there. This plastic part has threading on the inside that screws into that contact right there. And then there's a spring in between, kind of around the outside. And I mean, it feels okay. It feels like kind of a cheap switch, but it works. It feels a lot better once it's on here for the most part. It's annoying being blurry. There we go. So yeah, you just kind of start it with your fingers like that. And then finish it off with a coin. And there you have it. So, as I said before, this is a series box. That means you're getting 8.4 volts on a perfect day with no voltage drop. Nominal voltage is going to be 7.4 volts. And you don't want to build anything below a 0.5 on here. It's just going to, I mean, you can kind of use 0.4 as your hard threshold and be very cautious below 0.5. It's going to be really hot. This is about a 0.6, and it heats up fast. So what that means is if you're going to use thicker wire, you're going to need to do more wraps, make bigger coils. So I would highly recommend a 2-post or something that's easier to build, bigger coils. This is 24 gauge Canthal, 13 wraps, 3.5 millimeter inner diameter. 26 gauge also works pretty well. 28 gauge, I mean, anything smaller than 24 gauge will also work. You're just going to need to do less wraps. It's a little bit harder to work with, so builds can be slightly more difficult, especially if you're used to using like 20 gauge or 22 gauge, because those you kind of wrap and they stay, and you can really kind of strong arm them into place without worrying about them coming out or breaking or anything like that. So just some tips. When you go to build your coil, throw it on a regulated device or a 3.7 volt device first and slowly heat them up. What tends to happen is when you first build a coil and get it all situated, the legs heat up first before you have a chance to squeeze them and move them around and strum the coil and get it to glow evenly. Something like this, those legs heat up fast and you might actually snap the coil. So heat it up first, make sure it's glowing well on a 3.7 or low wattage, and then throw it on here and do it again. Sometimes the more voltage will reveal some hot spots that you couldn't see before. So yeah, make sure it's glowing on 3.7 or low wattage, throw it on here, try it again, and then from there on out, it's pretty normal. You make sure they're glowing evenly from the inside out, you wick it, you juice it, and you vape it. Just like that. So some of the quirks that I've experienced. This is actually the second switch I went through. The first one cracked, and then cracked, and then cracked, and then broke. I think that was a version 1. I mean, it's still a version 1. I think the first batch had a different switch. So I don't think that's a problem anymore. The replacement that I got seems to be a different type of plastic. It comes up a little bit more. It's not as set as far down as the original was. And this one's already lasted twice as long as the original switch, so I won't even consider that an issue. The other issue that you can't really avoid is when you vape it for periods of time, inevitably liquid shoots out of your airflow and ends up kind of down here. So it ends up in your switch, kind of. It ends up like on the top of the mod. I haven't had any wet batteries at all, so that's not really a problem. But the top cap gets juicy. The switch gets kind of juicy, and you periodically have to take the switch apart and clean it out a little bit. But I mean, standard fare for a mech, that's stuff you should be doing anyway. The threading gets progressively worse as it gets dirtier. Not much you can really do about that except keep them clean. Again, that's kind of standard for a mech. You got to clean it. What else? That's pretty much it. Those are pretty much my only issues. Every now and then I do get a misfire. Let's see if it's doing it now. There you go. So I'm pushing the button. You see that? And it's not firing. If I push it harder, it's still not firing. So I don't really know what's going on, or it's not firing as hot as it should. And that's hitting it right in the middle. Now it's working. What I think is going on is that it's more suited to having your positive battery in one side than the other. So when I encounter that issue and it gets annoying, I take it apart, switch the batteries around, put the atomizer on the other side, and it seems to work. I don't know why it does that. I really don't. The other thing too is I also have a black version of this. This comes in the silver color and a black matte finish. They're both aluminum though. The black version has battery rattle. I can barely use it, especially with Samsung 25Rs. What I'm using now, pardon me, is these MXJOs 3000 mAh 35 amp. They're not really 35 amp. They're 20 amp continuous. These are basically rewrapped LG HG2s, the brown ones. Those ones kind of work, but I still get some battery rattle in the black one. Haven't been able to figure it out, so I just went back to the silver version, which is fine by me for now. So, yeah, it's been great. Other than those few little quirks, it's a $35 series box that hits like a champ. You have to have an atomizer where you can fit bigger coils, or be willing to use thinner wire, and it's great. Now, what I said before at the beginning of the video, if you don't know what a hybrid connection is, or stacked batteries, or battery safety, don't even try this. Start with something else and work your way up to a series box. And the reason for that is if you don't know what you're doing, it can be dangerous. If you do know what you're doing, it's actually safer, and I'll show you that in a minute. And I won't hit the decimal point this time when I show you. So a couple years ago, it was kind of law of the land, don't stack batteries in a mech. A lot of old telescoping 18650 mods could fit 18350s stacked if you wanted them to. Those batteries had usually between a 5 and 10 amp limit. So building something that's comparable to what you're used to with a single battery or any kind of 3.7 volt device would push your amp limit well above that. And if one battery discharges, it can discharge into the other battery, and boom, it can explode. So that is still the case. However, 18650s have come a long way, and 18350s really haven't. Treat every 18650 battery like it has a 20 amp limit. That would be my recommendation. And it shouldn't really be an issue. And again, I'll show you that when we do Ohm's Law in a minute. But even a 0.5 is only getting like a max of 17 amps. So you're not really putting a whole lot of strain on this. You are getting more battery life. Even though the mAh rating doesn't increase, having two batteries increases the watt hours. So you do get a lot more battery life out of this than you would out of a single battery, like 18650 kind of mod. So that's really nice. What's the other thing you got to be careful for? Make sure your positive pin sticks out farther than the threading. Definitely. But let's do Ohm's Law, and I'll show you why it's actually safer if you know what you're doing and you avoid your, venting issues. All right, so I'm going to do this without hitting the decimal point. Let me make sure that, nope. Whoa. Okay. So, on a 3.7 volt device, actually, we're going to use 4.2 and 8.4 just to be safe. 4.2, and let's say that you build at like a 0.15. You're pulling 28 amps out of your battery. So if you use a parallel box, let's say you have two 20 amp batteries, 40 amps, you'll still be fine, but 28 amps is still a lot to be pulling from your battery, and you're getting 120 watts basically out of that. Even if you build as far down as 0.1, sometimes this doesn't always work, but Yeah, no. 0.1. There you go. 4.2. 0.1. Calculate. 42 amps. That's kind of ridiculous. The difference between 0.2 and 0.1, I don't know why it's doing this to me. 4.2 and 0.2. 21. So going from 0.2 to 0.1 doubles the current you're pulling out of your battery. And the reason is, if you do all the math and stuff, you take your voltage, you divide it by the resistance, and that gives you your current right here. So when you divide by a number that's less than 1 but above 0, it's like multiplying. It makes your current larger, and it gets larger exponentially faster the lower you get, closer to 0, as you can see. So 21, and then let's say we do 0.3, just 0.1 ohm higher. 14 amps. So it goes from 14 amps at 0.3 to 21 amps at 0.2 to 42 amps at 0.1. So the difference between 0.2 and 0.1 can make a pretty big difference in your current, even though it doesn't make a whole lot of difference in your actual vape. So that's building low, and even here you're pulling 14 amps and you're only getting 60 watts. So let's do all this again, but we're going to use 8.4 instead of 4.2 because we're looking at series now. The lowest you want to build on here, according to you know, Wismec and me, is 0.5. So you're getting 141 watts, double the wattage you were getting at 0.3, more than double, but you're only pulling 17 amps on a 20 amp battery. That's perfectly fine. And 0.5 is going to be hot on this thing. So you see where I'm going with this. Because the Ohm's law calculation is voltage divided by resistance, the lower this number is, the faster it increases this number. When you increase the voltage, though, this number stays smaller. This number, what I'm trying to say is your resistance plays a much bigger role in your current than your voltage does. So you can double this, and you can get way more power at a higher resistance and therefore a lower current. So if I vape at a 0.6, about a 0.6 with this, I'm pulling 14 amps max, and that's on a perfect day if there was no voltage drop. Really, let's just say that on a full charge I'm getting 7.4, and I'm still vaping a 0.6. 12 amps. That's ridiculous. That's almost no strain on the battery. I shouldn't say that. It is a strain on the battery, but it's not really that significant. That's a little over half of the way to 20 amps. I mean, come on. So you see what I'm saying with this. If you don't follow safety procedures, such as marrying your batteries, checking your positive pin, and using 20 amp batteries or higher, yeah, it can be dangerous because you could hard short up here. Your batteries can't handle 12 amps, 14 amps, or whatever it ends up being. So that can be dangerous. If you put your batteries in wrong, if you have them both facing up or facing down, or you put the atomizer on the negative side, I mean, all that stuff, yeah, it can be dangerous. But again, if you know what you're doing and you're careful, those mistakes don't really come into play, if that makes sense. However, if you're comparing a 150 watt vape on a parallel or a single 18650 mod building down to 0.1 or lower, and you compare a 0.5 ohm with 7.4 volts, it's the difference between 42 amps and like 15 amps. Way less strain on the battery on a series box. And that's why it's safer, provided that you take into account all those other things and make sure you put your batteries in right, use the right ones, positive pin, yada, yada, yada. So I always end up coming back to Mex, and I've been using this pretty much exclusively for like a month and a half. It's great. It's definitely worth the $35. If you get it from China, it's even less. It's probably 25 or 20 by now. It performs great. Besides those little quirks with the switch and the liquid kind of getting about, I mean, that's just stuff you got to deal with, and it's stuff that I'm willing to forgive because it's a $35 mod. It's going to be easier on you to have some kind of two-post RDA. Because you're going to want to build bigger coils. Chances are, if you're a sub-ohm vapor and you like clouds, you like a hot vape, you're probably used to 20, 20, 20, 22, 24 gauge. You can use 24 gauge on here, which is what I like to use, but you're going to have to do, again, 13 something wraps with a giant diameter, so you need an atomizer that can handle it. The alternative is to use 26 or 28 or 30 gauge, but building contact coils, especially with those, it can get kind of tough with all the squeezing and pulsing, and because they're so thin, if you go to squeeze, they can like overlap, and you can snap the wire, and it's just easier. A thicker wire is easier to work with for me. It's not as springy. The wires kind of stay where you wrap them a little bit better. So I would recommend using 24 gauge with a 2-post RDA. But you can use whatever you want. You know what you're doing, right? So that's the Wismec Noisy Cricket. It's fantastic, and I recommend it to every advanced vapor who still likes mech mods. It's also really tiny. This is the only thing I have right now, right next to me. But this is the Inikin Endura T22. I mean, it's tiny, man. It's tiny. This is terrible, by the way. I might do a video on that. I know I usually do positive reviews, and just to keep my credibility going, I'll do a negative review on this. Since everyone else on the planet is doing positive reviews. It really puts out the vapor. So if you're a cloud chaser, this is definitely something for you. So that's it for the review. Thank you for watching. Now we're going to go on to the spiel. Please follow on Twitch and Twitter. I live stream 5 days a week over at Twitch. I've just rebranded. My name is now Seeker127. So if you go over to twitch.tv, search for Seeker127, that's me. Please follow over there. I play video games 5 days a week. Right now, I am balls deep in Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition. I always love Devil May Cry, and whenever I come back to it, I don't half-ass it. It's not like, yeah, I'll play this today. It's like, no, I'm going to run this game 3 times today. Whatever. It's a great game, and the Special Edition has a lot of content that I haven't played before. Please also follow on Twitter and like on Facebook. And what's the other thing? Oh, subscribe right here on YouTube. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more like this, please click the subscribe button. Let me know what you think of the Noisy Cricket or the channel or whatever you want in the comments below. I try to reply to every comment that I can. Also, I also set up a Patreon account. So a Patreon is a way for content creators to make some extra income if the people they're making content for would like to do that. So if you would like to help support my endeavor here, please head over to Patreon. You can subscribe for a penny a month or $1 million a month. Anything that you feel that I deserve, if anything, you can put up over there. $5 a month will get your name on the Wall of Fame on my Twitch channel, and $10 a month will let you pick one game per week that I stream live, if you feel so inclined. What else? Oh, new friends. Matt CC, shout out to you. Matt CC25 on Twitch shows up every single day and watches me stream. So thank you. Thank you for supporting my content creation thing that I do. Techie C, thank you for being a mod. Techie C also streams. Check him out. Twitch.tv/TechieC. And Fruza, a new friend. Twitch.tv/FRUZZA. We played Resident Evil 5 co-op. He usually streams when I don't. Sometimes we overlap, but he's on West Coast, I'm on East Coast. So generally, if I'm offline, check him out, and we'll probably do some content stuff, co-op content stuff in the future at some point. Maybe some Mercenaries mode. I don't know. We'll talk. But check him out. Please check out those other small streamers. Support small streamers, and also please check out everything Seeker127: Facebook, Patreon, Twitch, Twitter, and right here on YouTube. What's next? Monday, tomorrow, I'm going to be playing more Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition, so be sure to stop by. And that's it. We'll do one more vape. So that's the Noisy Cricket series hybrid style mech box mod from Wismec. Wismec Noisy Cricket. Wismec is awesome. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching. This is Seeker Gaming.